Next, we have Matt Beienburg. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. Director of Education Policy from the Goldwater Institute on WebEx. Matt, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome to the committee, Matt.
Great, thank you very much. Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the record, Matt Beienburg, Director of Education Policy for the Goldwater Institute. I'm also speaking in support of the transparency provision, specifically in SB 363. The legislation, as mentioned, would empower parents, provides them an opportunity to know what's being taught in the classroom. As I go into a little bit more in my written testimony, we've seen teachers nationally writing in places such as the Education Journal Education Week, saying that they feel they have a mandate to infuse politics into the classroom, with a number of stories and instances of that. Things like the New York Times 1619 project, which obviously is an extraordinarily controversial content, academically discredited, and yet we're seeing investigators finding content like this being used in 3,500 classrooms in all 50 states. So that means Kansas as well. And as they've found, content like this is not typically going through formal curriculum adoption at the school district level. It's essentially being used on an individual basis as supplemental materials. So when parents are trying to find out whether or not a school is using this, there's no record of it showing up as an official curriculum document, but it is being presented to students, again, including in Kansas. The bill maximizes transparency for the parents while minimizing the workload for teachers. As the sponsor mentioned of the current bill, right now, teachers in Kansas, right, as a best practice, are commonly submitting their lesson plans. They're documenting those resources on their existing IT platforms. This bill essentially just provides that same sort of opportunity and says if that content's being documented within the school walls, there's no reason that current and prospective parents shouldn't also have access to see that material. In terms of the impact for teachers, this actually would have a positive impact, and teachers around the country, as similar bills are now moving in about 20 state legislatures, teachers around the country have actually noticed and commented that this would increase and improve their ability to spend their time on student instruction. As teachers have said, right now it's very difficult. Teachers, especially new teachers coming into the classroom, are expected to build their syllabus largely from the ground up. In fact, a national study found a survey of teachers found that they report spending 4 hours every single week just searching for free materials to use. So that's going on Google, going on YouTube. Having this material posted online would help empower, especially those new teachers, to see what high quality teachers are already using.
Matt, if you could wrap up, please. Your 2 minutes are up, so if you could just summarize, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. So again, just to make clear, this bill provides essentially transparency for parents while recognizing that this work is already being done by teachers. Happy to stand for questions.
Sure. I'd like to ask the gentleman from the Goldwater Institute, does he know of any state that has passed and or in the process of passing legislation very, very similar to this?
Madam Chair, Senator, thank you for the question. Yes, as I mentioned, there are about 20 states now that have legislation. Libby, who also spoke from Wisconsin, actually passed both chambers of that legislature, passed it. It was vetoed by their governor. The Pennsylvania legislature also passed a provision requiring curriculum transparency. In Arizona, our legislature here, actually just at Senate Education Committee, passed legislation very similar to that. So it is advancing in multiple states, already going through one or multiple chambers, and as I mentioned, about 20 states now nationally moving to provide this sense of transparency, because I do think that as parents have spoken up to say this is something that's necessary, legislators are beginning to take note and act on their behalf.
Madam Chair, if I may ask that he supply that information to us to help support this attempt to pass this legislation.
Matt, is that something that you could provide for this committee?
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to provide information around that. I believe in my written testimony there is actually a link that references some of that legislation already.